Hello, good evening, everyone. I send you my greetings here from, in this Saturday evening. We are here to discuss, me and my friend Kwame Gonza, regarding the Ukraine-Russia war, and particularly on Africa's response to it, what happened in the United Nations General Assembly, and during in the statements that the leaders have released individually. Welcome, Kwame, again.
Thank you very much, Malit. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah,
And
okay.
uh, and greetings to all the viewers of Connect Africa.
Yeah, thank you very much. So you know um, uh, as we have, I mean, it has been around a week since officially, at least since the war started, the Ukraine Russia war. Russia meaning starting the attack first. But I have been reading different articles, and hearing to analysis, especially from the African's point of view. And here is my first questions. Okay, like, these are the same people, the same group of people or countries who were provoking Russia to be involved in this war. At least I can say this, in this war are the same people who have a seat in the 1884 Africa Scramble for Africa meeting in Berlin. These are the same people who went and colonized, and the Red Indians in America. These are the
Mm.
same people who went as far as to Australia and destroyed the aboriginals. The people exist, but of course their power, their territory, what they used to occupy is lost. They have lost that power. And then to our recent memory, these are the same group who went and totally distracted Libya, Yemen, Afghanistan, Somalia. I mean, the list goes on. Okay, we have, and so namely we have America and we have the Western Europe. Okay, and now they have a name that they created, which is NATO, right?
Mm.
Is Russia, do you think, fighting an African war?
Um, I
In a
think
way.
we need to, for us to understand where this situation came from, we need to approach it from what I would call around three, from three sides. We will reflect on it uh, as you have started from an African perspective, and we'll reflect on it from the geopolitical point of view, and we will reflect on it from another side, which is the economic point of view. And and I'll start with the economic point of view. Um, Russia has been very helpful to Africa in the past, in that Russia and China, they are the only countries which helped Africa during the struggle for independence. When these countries of Europe and the United States were trying to re-enslave Africa. And the reason why they came to Africa, just like any other part of the world, whether it is India, whether it was Australia, whether it was the United States, and the indigenous people, the Red Indians were killed off, is it was for economic reasons. Now, after the overthrow of colonialism in the starting 1945 up to the late up to the early 1990s, in 1994, just recently, when South Africa gained its independence. Uh, while we were chasing out Europe, the United States was getting ready to to re-enslave or to recolonize Africa and the global South. So the power went from Europe to the United States. After World War II, the United States emerged as a superpower, and so it took over the mantle of domination from Europe to continue to enslave Africa. But the only country which helped Africa and continued to fight, and even which was the cause of the Cold War, through which people like Patrice Lumumba and Patrice Lumumba and Kwame Nkrumah were overthrown, and Patrice Lumumba was killed, is because they suspected that Russia was trying to help the Africans to gain full independence. Now, when Russia collapsed, which was the Soviet Union, during that period, Russia was called the Soviet Union. They started in 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, 1970, 1980s, and the Soviet Union collapsed in 1989. So when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1989, they had formed this NATO after 1945 to stop uh, Europe from engaging in other wars, and also to contain the Soviet Union. But when the Soviet Union collapsed, they promised the leadership in the Soviet Union during that time that NATO would be disbanded because its purpose had been fulfilled. So it would not even extend to the eastern part of Europe. But now these people, they continue to renege on their promise, which they did, and they continue to disregard the agreements which they signed with the Soviet Union. They continue to expand NATO all the way to the east, to the eastern part of Europe, recruiting, countries which were former Soviet, which were former countries of the Soviet Union. And this is what has caused the problem. So they are not really right now addressing the problem. The problem is that Russia has been demanding certain guarantees for its security as a country. Just to recap, Ukraine is the territory which is a territory which was part of Russia when it was the Soviet Union. But at the same time, during World War One, Hitler, Napoleon, and World War One and World War Two, Napoleon and Hitler of France, Hitler of Germany and Napoleon of France, when they were attacking Russia, they passed it through Ukraine. So I think that this situation is very understandable for Russia to react to this. Russia is reacting like this because of the adamancy of the Western world, because of the arrogancy. The arrogancy has continued, unchecked. And I think that it is high time that arrogancy is checked. So let me a little bit go back also on and talk about the economic point of view from which these people are coming in. In the year 2008, there was an economic depression which happened, a financial collapse which happened in the United States. Now, this financial collapse which happened in the United States went on to engulf the whole world because it started from the United States. It started from the greed that happened due to the financial institutions in London and in New York to continue to exploit the poor, to continue to exploit the peoples of the world. And so they caused this reckless financial collapse. Now, the West has been declining for a very, very long time. And what they are finding hard to fathom right now is that they are declining steeply, and there's no way to save themselves. Since the 18th century, when slavery was abolished, the imperialist powers continued to lose power, started losing power after the Africans liberated themselves from slavery. And then when we came to 1945, when more African countries came on board and liberated themselves and they got independence, these imperialist powers, they continued to lose, grip on the control of the world. So this is what we are seeing that has continued over time with the emergence of China and the resurgence of Russia. And then we have 10 of the best or the fastest growing economies have been in Africa in the past period, in the recent 10 years. The 10 fastest growing economies in the world, they have been Africans. So because the Western world has been mostly depending on Africa as a parasite, they have been sort of like parasites that have been eating Africa and eating the global south and enriching themselves. When these parts got independence and have started growing, then it becomes a problem. That is why you are seeing things like Brexit in Europe, where Britain comes out, because now they are struggling for survival. You are seeing yellow jackets in France. People are demonstrating on streets. You are seeing that now Germany and France are struggling with the European Union. Greece is in debt. You see Portugal is bankrupt. You see a lot of countries which are bankrupt. This is all because of the emergence of China, the resurgence of Russia, and then the growth that is happening in the global south. So this is the instability which we are seeing. Now they are fighting against this. Starting 2008, they got financial depressions there. And these financial depressions, normally they take a period of 10 years. So then 2008, 2010, 10 years from then, we get 2018 and 2020. We see that there is another financial depression there in 2020. And then this coronavirus has been used as an excuse to say that there's a coronavirus, but in actuality, coronavirus, some sources, some solid and valid sources are saying that this came from the laboratory. And this is not something that you would say that is unbelievable. That is totally unbelievable, because what we are seeing now is that this is a civilizational problem that the Western civilization, which has the United States right now as the flag bearer of Western civilization, has been declining drastically. If you look at the United States, the infrastructure has been, dilapidated. Bridges are collapsing, roads, they don't have high-speed trains. The trains are rotten. So they cannot deal with the problems at home. So they are distracting their people from the problems at home, the income inequality in the United States, the problems in Europe, and they are trying to focus that that energy onto Russia so that they can show their people at home that they are solving problems. But in actuality, they are really not solving problems. They are just running away from these problems. This is what I am seeing, but I'll continue to add on this as we go on having this conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Kwame. So let's go to how Africa responded in general. I wish I can call all the 55 states just like that, Africa. But of
Yes,
course, there
yes,
are
yes,
55 different votes. But yeah, at least words have power. So we will put our words on it and hopefully, soon it will
yes,
happen.
yes.
Yeah. Let me try to share one thing if I can. So, because it will help me for my next question.
Mm,
If I am successful, let's see. So, I hope this is. Oh, no, this is not right. Let me see. Let me see. I'll try. Nay. Mhm. Mm.
I think this is the one you want to share.
You have it?
Yes.
Okay. So shall I go off? What? How many things are you seeing here? I see myself, and then no. So this is not correct.
This one
The
you
one
want
that
to
if there is something that says about the
the countries and how they voted. Yes.
yeah, do you see what I say?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, yeah, if that's so good because I see nothing here. Yeah, so this is it. These are the countries that voted in favor out of, I think, 145 participants. They've got voted in favor 28. Oh, this is as far as African countries are okay concerned. And then we have one no, which was a bold country, Eritrea.
Yes.
Then abstained 17 of them. And then we have six of them were not in the room. So, or eight of them, I think, but out of eight, one, two, three, four, five, six countries and 17, that will make it 23 of them are kind of abstain. They didn't yes, no, no, no. Okay.
Mm,
So,
mm.
uh,
So all
take
together,
23, like around half or a little
yes,
less than
yes,
half
yes.
persons
All together is around 26 countries which abstained, were absent, and those ones who rejected the
outside
vote.
of, yeah, in
Yeah,
Africa.
it's
Okay.
26. Yes.
So it seems that also that can be translated to something what abstain
Yes,
means to different
definitely.
African
Definitely.
countries. There's a translation for it. It means something. uh, is neutrality the way? I mean, because this is what is called neutral, isn't it? I mean, like a non-aligned policy of
Yeah,
countries
yes,
for this specific.
yes.
Is neutrality a way for Africa, or should we be on one side or the other side, or should we come, because there's usually this Eastern bloc and the Western bloc, or Africa should come with its own bloc, like the Southern bloc or Africa bloc, I don't know, something. What is the way for Africa? This is where we stand right now. Most of them are, playing with neutrality. What's your
Yes.
take on this? Yeah.
Yeah, in the 1960s, uh, uh, Africa was one of the groups, starting with Ghana, was one of the founding members of the non-aligned movement during the struggle, um, when there was that struggle between the Soviet Union and the Western world, capitalism and communism. So Ghana, during that time, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, because he was almost the leader of the continent, was instrumental in the formation of that organization of non-aligned movement, whereby they said, even he made a statement, Kwame Nkrumah made a statement and said that we neither face east or west, we face forward. So what he meant is that we didn't want to ally uh, with anyone. Now, the significance of this voting, whereby we have around 28 member states of the African Union and,
Hmm.
voting in favor of this resolution to condemn the actions of Russia, what Russia called a limited military operation in Ukraine for certain reasons, because its security guarantees have been denied. uh, Russia has been neglected, sort of. They have ignored Russia and its complaints. The United States is miles and miles away across the ocean, but is continuing
Mhm.
to provoke and cause
Yeah.
problems in Europe. And Russia has complained and they have not listened. They have ignored it. Instead, they are arming Ukraine and pumping up young children and women and all the people who don't have experience in military in Ukraine, for them to come up and fight against, well-trained Russians. So you can see that Europe and the Western world is just putting the lives of the people in Ukraine in great, great danger. Now, the significance of this vote, I think, is that Africa, almost 50% has continued to push forward uh, in an unaligned manner. If you look at the countries which abstained or rejected the vote or absented themselves, they are the usual suspects when it comes to this vote. They are the countries which have advocated for independence. If you look at some of those countries, you can see that those are countries where coups have happened in the past. Now, what is this showing us? This is showing us that Africa in itself is tired of neocolonialism, okay? Is tired of the domination of the West, okay? So
Yeah.
this is the significance I'm seeing in this vote, because you have countries on the right, countries like Burundi, you have countries which have been very strong. You have countries
Mhm.
like Equatorial Guinea, which have been very strong. You have countries like Central African Republic, which have been complaining about France and its activities. You have countries like Mali, okay? You have Mozambique. These have been strong countries. South Sudan, you have Uganda, you have Zimbabwe on that side. You have
Yeah.
Burkina Faso, where a coup has been recently. You have Ethiopia on that
Yeah.
side. You have Guinea. You have Guinea-Bissau, where almost a coup happened recently. You have Morocco. You have Togo. So you can see that the country on this side, Mali, Sudan, Uganda, Ethiopia, Guinea, these are Burkina Faso, countries where coups have been, and they are really strong people who are trying to throw off the domination of the Western world. Now, on the other side, the countries which voted in favor, they are still the usual suspects. These countries, when you look at them, they are the ones who have a majority of the interests of the Western world. Like they have military bases. You find that they have one or two military bases within them, and then you have the capitalist system of the West, and their corporations are dominating in those countries. When you look at them, you can see Botswana. There's a lot of mining interests from the Western world.
Yeah.
You see Chad also. Recently, they killed the leader in Chad there, and there is suspected that France was involved. So it voted in favor of the resolution. You can see countries like Egypt is there. Okay, Egypt. You remember that while Ethiopia was in Africa, in East Africa, trying to wipe up support, trying to marshal up support for the GAD, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Egypt was in Washington, dining with Trump. We have Djibouti. Now, Djibouti also, that is where the biggest military base, the United States military base is, the Camp Lamour. That is the situation there. Now, you have countries like Ghana where there is military bases, military bases, United States military bases, and there is a lot of mining interests, Western mining interests in Ghana. You have countries like Gambia, where they took out a Pan-Africanist leader and they replaced him with a puppet. They took out Yahya Jammeh, who was the president of Zambia. And then you have Libya. We know that they overthrew the president there. Liberia has a lot of things similar with the United States because it's on the western part of the coast. Sierra Leone is the same thing. We have Malawi, Mauritania, Mauritius. It has a lot of. Mauritius is even looked at as a tax haven for Western companies in many cases, and it depends a lot on tourism from the Western world. You have Niger, usual suspect also. You have Nigeria. We know that Nigeria also is a very weak country. The leaders are very weak. They can't, seem to make right decisions that are going to advance the continent. Instead of being leaders of the continent, they have decided to be surrogates. They have decided to be subordinates. And then they have also a lot of Western companies in Nigeria which are extracting the oil and impoverishing the people. We have Rwanda. Rwanda has very strong ties with Israel. You see, so you can see that the countries which voted on that cost, maybe the country which surprised me a little bit is Somalia, that is voted in favor. Looking at the situation that Somalia recently, the leadership was sanctioned by the United States because the prime minister and the president, they cancelled contracts for the United States, one United States company which was trying to bribe the Minister of Energy to give it about 7 contracts. So the only country I'm surprised there in Somalia, the way it voted. By countries like Zambia, I'm not really surprised. When Ethiopia was trying to fight against the rebels in Tigray, Zambia was pulling out its citizens, even though other African countries were not pulling out any citizens from Ethiopia. So you can see that the leader in Zambia also is, you can see that is a puppet to the United States. So if he does that, I'm not really surprised. So, but all in all, what I'm trying to say here is that the continent now is divided almost to the to the apportionment of around 50-50. One side of the continent wants to be free and act independently, and one half of the continent, 50% of the continent, is still in the grips of neocolonialism. What this points out for us, I think, is that as Pan-Africanists, the countries which voted in opposition, the countries which abstained, I think that is where our work is supposed to intensify. These are the potential partners for Pan-Africanism. These are the potential partners of the African people. These are the friends of the African people. When I look at the situation and what is going on right now, maybe later when we continue this discussion, I'll approach it from the geopolitical point of view, to look at the grand strategy of imperialism. What is imperialism trying to achieve by its movement into Russia? Why is it provoking Russia? Is there an agenda behind the provocation in Russia? Is it tied to Russia's activities in countries like Mali and the Sahel? So I'll come and look at that when we come back with the next questions.
Thank you very much, really, Kwame, for that breakdown, because it shows us who is who, why those countries said yes, and then on the other hand, why those countries abstained.
Yes.
Eritrea is just there speaking for herself. There's no need to explain what
Yes.
Eritrea is. I want to shout out for my Eritrean viewers. Really, I salute you. Most of us have been thinking, okay, it's just such an alienated country. I mean, why? Many things have been said.
It's a
So
very
many
strong country.
things
It's a very strong
just by
country.
the corner. Why the people, I mean, the leader cannot, I mean, but look at the freedom now that they have. They are in front of them telling them no. I mean, many Africans right now are wishing, they wish if their leader,
Yes.
if their country was as bold, as
Yes.
independent as Eritrea was. I'm telling you. On the next, I mean, I arranged it for someone to come in, but I mean, they suggested even for a better idea. So I will interview them in group so that they will give us, and perhaps
Yes.
share with us what can we learn from them, and then how they reached. I mean, it wasn't easy to be alienated from the world. I mean, there's a separation under there, but still, what do they feel right now about it? Definitely that will be for next time. uh, Connecting this, what will be the impact of this geopolitical shift, whatever the consequence of this Ukraine-Russia war is. I think that is a question I'm going to ask. But let me just give this background that I read an article recently by Diana Johnston. She is an author of the book Circle in the Darkness, Memoirs of a World Watcher. And then
Mm.
she has another one, Fool's Crusade, Yugoslavia, NATO, and Western Delusions. And she has also another one that but in her recent article, she was saying, it's I forgot the title of the article, but it was saying something, it's a rude game or a rude sport that America is playing. And she
Mm.
explains in the article that there was this game that was called a beer baiting in England, and it was a game or a sport that the royal family used to enjoy, but now it's banned because it's so inhuman. So what they
Mm.
do is basically in that game they bring, just a harmless beer caged, and then around it there are these trained dogs to attack the beer even without, while he is or she is harmless to these dogs. And so she resembles, or she creates this interesting comparison. So the whole game, the sport is the US foreign policy, and then the players are the NATO. Okay, the
Yes.
participants are
Yes.
the NATO. In a way, those provocative dogs, trained dogs, are the NATO. Okay, so,
Yes.
and the royal family sitting there enjoys this, the blood spill over, what's happening. So, so to provoke, they are trained, but in this now, in reality, when we bring it to what's happening now in our world, what happens is there is sanction, there is bullying in the media about a country when they want to provoke you, and
Mm.
there is demonizing, this
Yes.
equating of a whole nation to one
Yes.
person. You remember how they were,
Yes.
trying to do to Ethiopia, equating 120 million as if it's just a
Just
prime
one
minister
person.
Abiy Ahmed thing, and prime minister, the one who got laureate Nobel
Mm.
Peace Prize, and this and that. Now the whole thing, we see the same procedure being
The same
applied in
pattern.
Russia, also
Yes.
putting it, demonizing Putin
Putin.
and
Yes.
everything. So it was, I found it really interesting. So by doing that, so they want you to fall in your trap so that they can exploit you. That's exactly basically what the US foreign policy is. They will use your deterrent, when you fall in the trap. Now, giving this background, do you think that Russia has fallen in their trap, and how does it impact the whole world, and when we bring it also to our course to Africa?
Um, Personally, I really don't think that Russia has fallen in the trap. I think Russia did very well to stand its ground. Um, the Western world is declined, like I said, and they don't want to accept the 2020 financial crisis, which they masked with coronavirus, was the last nail in the coffin. But they brought COVID to make it look like they did not have a financial crisis. Like I told you, the financial crisis, they happen in cycles of 10 years. So we had one in 2008, which lasted up to 2010. And so after 10 years, it's supposed to be 2020. So they are trying to mask this decline. And like I said, they want to distract their people at home to show that they are trying to fight a certain enemy out there. Just like how they did, and they say that they are fighting terrorism in Iraq, they are going to find weapons of mass destruction, even though the people at home were resisting and were against this war. So, what we are seeing in Russia is that Russia has done the right thing to stand up for its interests, because if it allowed them to bring nuclear weapons to Ukraine, it is very possible that they could have attacked Russia. Now, the reason why they want to attack Russia, it is part of its grand strategy, the imperialist, neo-colonialist grand strategy. They have been trying to revive their civilization, which is collapsing. Okay, I said that there was an economic depression in 2020. Now, when COVID came in 2020, uh, from the year 2010 up to 2020, that's a period of 10 years. But from 2010, the biggest lender in Africa, on the African continent, has been China. If you remember, in 2012, we had the China Africa Summit, which happened. That China Africa Summit, it happened in Johannesburg. I think it happened in Sandton, or Johannesburg in South Africa. And China committed finances of around 200 billion dollars in finance. 60, I think it was $60 billion in finance to projects in Africa. Now, the trade figures of China and Africa had increased drastically because China, for a very long time, has been the major lender of the African continent and the global south. And the West has not been anywhere because of its unfavorable terms. Many countries of the global south have been running to China because China gives favorable terms of lending. So the IMF and the World Bank had from 2010, they don't have money, 2010 up to 2020, fallen behind that a lot of countries in the South and African countries and countries in the global South, they were not going there to borrow money. All of them, they were flocking to China to borrow money. So this coronavirus, I see it as a means of resurgence to revive the exploitation by the World Bank and IMF to come and exploit African countries and exploit to continue to exploit the global South for the enrichment of Europe and the Western world. Now, let me go further to this. When you look at coronavirus, when it came around March, it started around February, March 2020. You can see that Africa was not yet hit with any coronavirus, but by May 2020, the IMF immediately unleashed what it called the COVID relief fund, when in fact Africa had not even locked down. There was no announcement that Africa is suffering from COVID. You know, while other parts of the world were suffering from COVID, Africa was clean, but they released the money and they say they are borrowing money to Africa. And if you look back, you can see that countries like South Africa were given $4.5 billion. Majorly, they focused on countries where there are Western interests. Those countries which there is no Western interest, they put there just small amounts of money, $300 million, like countries which are so much relying on China. So South Africa, major mining interests for the Western world, $4.5 billion. Ghana, major mining interests for the American economy, $1 billion. You go to countries like Kenya, major business interests for Britain. They gave it $750 million. Countries like Uganda received $300 million, and many other countries. When you go and look back at the figures, a lot of African countries were given loans. But these loans, which were called, like I said, COVID Relief Fund, they came when Africa is not suffering under any COVID. Okay,
Yeah.
the countries were okay. Okay, they were moving well. If you remember, countries like Tanzania, they entered the middle income status amidst COVID. President Magufuli, he was doing very well. He never locked down the country, and Tanzania was able to emerge into a middle income status country amidst, the heat of COVID, when others were shutting down economies were shrinking. Okay, so the IMF
Don't forget your point. Now Tanzania is after a lot of loans that now they are saying they are worried.
yes.
They are in a lot
Now
of
they
debt.
are saying yes, that is it. So after removing a pro-African leader, after killing him under the pretext of COVID, these, we know this is the CIA. These are the methods which they use. I think this is not something which we need to hide anymore. They have come out in broad daylight. These are the methods which they use. They even wanted to use these methods on Patrice Lumumba in the Congo because they wanted to, they wanted to bring injections. They wanted to bring toothpaste and poison him, all kind of things, until they saw that this was not going to work in a certain way. They said we have to go in and just brutalize him and kill him. So that is what they did to him. Now, that is how the IMF is trying to come back. So what they are trying to do is trying to resurge themselves into the continent. Now, that one ties in very well that you remember after the economic depression of 2008, they went and attacked Libya 2 years after the economic depression in the United States. That was in 2011, and they removed the leader. They removed the president Muammar Gaddafi from Libya, and they opened up the northern part of the continent so that the rebels and the ISIS, which was created by the United States in Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan, can enter into Africa. Now, this entry of ISIS into Africa through Libya, which had been opened up because the security has been compromised by the overthrow of President Muammar Gaddafi in 2011, it opened the space for these criminals to get inside the ISIS and the terrorists, so that Britain, German, France, and the United States can justify their coming to Africa and saying that they are coming to protect Africa. Africa is under attack by the terrorists. We need to protect it. So these rebels, we see that they went all the way. These jihadists, we see that they went all the way to Burkina Faso. In some cases, even they entered up to Ivory Coast, all over the Sahel, and now they have gone all over up to Mozambique. You see, they have reached up to Mozambique. Now, they want to use this as a pretext to come back, to push out China out of the continent. Because remember, China was having a lot of projects in Libya, so they pushed it out of there. So they are trying to push China out of Africa so that they can take over. Now they are seeing that Russia comes in to protect Mali, to help Mali, and the other African countries that are trying to push out France. So they see Russia as a threat, to their, goal, objective of trying to take over the African continent once again. Now, there is two enemies in this, their grand strategy. They have destroyed all the countries which they planned in their 20-year strategy. They destroyed Iraq, they destroyed Afghanistan, they destroyed, Sudan, okay? They destroyed Somalia, they destroyed Libya. So this was part of the strategy, to destroy these countries so that they will not have any opposition. They destroyed Syria. Now Syria is on its knees. So they wanted to see if they can trap Russia from Syria and weaken Russia from there. But Russia showed that it was up to the task, and it was able to help to protect Syria. Now they have seen that Russia is continuing to grow strong, and it has gone on to come to Africa also to help to protect Africa. So that is why you see that they are provoking it close to its border in Ukraine, so that Russia can take the attention of Africa, and Russia will go back to, to fight a war in Ukraine. And then it will leave an open space for them to take over in the African continent. Now, Russia also is it complements China militarily. When you look at China, China is not strong militarily compared to the Western world, compared to the United States. But China has overtaken the United States in all aspects, economic, technological, all these areas it has overtaken. Now, the area where it is remaining is only the area of security. You know that the United States is spending over, the official figure is around $800 billion on defense or on aggression, on weapons of war and murder. They are spending over $800 billion. And China is spending over $300 billion. So you can see the difference there. But the unofficial figures for the United States are around $1 trillion every year. That is how much they are spending on weapons of death. And so they have a lot of weapons. They are spending a lot on death and causing chaos around the world. So where China is catching up rapidly, but is a little bit short, is only on defense. And if China works with Russia, then they have a very strong combination when it comes to defense. So Russia is very strong militarily, but is weak economically, and then in the other things like the communication and other forms of technology. But when it comes to military technology, Russia is there. So if Russia and China come together, they will defeat the West. If they continue to work together, they will defeat the West. Because I strongly believe that they are trying, the elimination, they are trying to attack Russia to eliminate the military might which Russia might lend to China. And then they will go and attack China completely when China doesn't have this military backing of the Russian state or the technological military might of Russia. Now, if they attack China and they defeat it, then it will be game over for the African continent, because now Africa will not have anyone who will be there to stand for it, to help it, but this is not something I'm seeing that it will come about because of the Western world, the way it has been weakened. I don't see any way how they are going to win this, but this is their grand strategy. The grand strategy is to take out Russia. All of them, when you talk of countries like the United States, Britain, and all European countries, they band together. These are wolves. These are parasites. So Canada, Australia, these are parasites. This is white supremacy at its, at its highest manifestation. That is how it works in NATO. Okay, and Five Eyes. So they are trying to take out Russia, and they want to take out China, and then they will resurge themselves. They will continue to exploit it because Africa is the only place which is remaining with the resources that are not being used. There's no industries that have been built. And so when I look at some African leaders playing into these hands, I really, to a certain extent, weep for our continent. But at the same time, I'm very optimistic because of the way things have changed. Many Pan-Africans are waking up to the
Yeah.
realities, the advances in technology, the consciousness, the new
Yeah.
consciousness that has been raised of the people. And like we looked at the vote, which happened at the United Nations Security Council. The United Nations General Assembly, that 50% of the African countries voted against this, and 50% of them voted for in favor or for the West and what they wanted. So I still have, I'm optimistic about the future, and I hope that my optimism is not misplaced, because when I look at the young generation, I have very big confidence that we are in that position whereby we will be able to rescue the continent where it is. So geopolitically, when we look at it, this is how I'm seeing it.
Thank you very much, Kwame, again for that breakdown. That's really great. You know what we do here at Connect Africa is actually basically it's a Pan-African and educative channel as well to create awareness to our people, to all African people. Yes, there is that new consciousness. That's something that gives me hope every morning I wake up
Mm,
actually, and makes you okay. There are people, who are looking up to something, who are looking for icons everywhere. People have stopped to rely on their leaders. They know when they are sellouts, they know when they are
yes.
pan-african, they can clearly make a difference on that. And uh, just to bring one, it might 2 points before I go to the next question. You were raising, you were surprised how Somalia is in that yes list, meaning favoring Ukraine. And I was speaking with one friend from Somalia, and I was surprised, like what happened, and then yeah, so what he told me is actually there was a vote that happened before the general assembly in the human right, where there are only, I think, a certain number of members, like 45 or something. Not everybody is a member. So when they are kind of losing on that vote, that's where America actually, I mean, UN is the toy of the ball of America, so they brought it to the general assembly. But basically this shouldn't have be brought to the General Assembly. So on that vote, actually, Somalia voted no. And then on this vote,
Mm,
they said yes, because there's a lot of things that's coming, the election and everything. There's a lot of tension, so they didn't want to be the center of attention in
mm,
this. So that tells you, now I can derive two things from that. So even when they say yes, those African countries, it doesn't mean really they're supporting, but still, okay, they like that boldness and freedom to say no, but still, because they are dependent of those countries on something, as you said,
yeah.
there
Mm.
are businesses or something that's going on, or loans, whatever. So they're afraid. So they say,
Yeah.
yes.
Sometimes I think they may do it for strategic reasons, like Somalia, for a very long time, since the 1990s, after the collapse of the state, after the attack by the United States, which war, of course, Somalia defeated them and they ran away, has been depending on the European Union. And the United States for paying for the security, like we know, AMISOM and the African Union. troops which have been in Somalia. They are being paid by the European Union and the United States. So I think it's possible. It's possible that is the
Yeah.
reason. That is partly
That's what he told me.
that is part of the reason.
Yeah.
And okay, I was just surprised because on the 20th, the Minister of Energy in Somalia went ahead to sign around seven oil contracts, oil exploration contracts with an American company without the knowledge of the Prime Minister and the President of Somalia. And and then when the president and the prime minister found this out, actually this company comes from Oklahoma City, but they say that it is registered in one tax haven, the Cayman Islands. So it is a tax evading company that on one hand they say it is registered, it is owned by some people who are around three people in Oklahoma City, in the United States. But on one hand, when you do a background check, you see that this company is registered in the Cayman Islands as a tax evading company organization. We know these companies have been evading taxes. They will be registered in those areas which are tax havens, and they will come to countries like Somalia or Uganda or in other African countries or Kenya, and they will refuse to pay taxes to us and say because they are not registered here, so they can't pay taxes here. But at the same time, their country of origin, like the United States, they will also not pay taxes there. They will say that they are not registered here, so they are registered in a tax haven, and so that is how they dodge taxes. So the president and the prime minister in Somalia saw this situation and say, how is the energy minister able to sign contracts on behalf of the president and the I mean, how is the energy minister able to sign contracts on behalf of the president and the prime minister without their knowledge? And so they cancelled these contracts. They said that these are illegal contracts. We cannot accept them. Now, that was on 20th. Now, on 26th, Senator Blinken of the United States came out in his arrogancy to say that they are putting sanctions, travel restrictions, visa restrictions on
Yeah.
Somalia,
That's
delegates
a
and
pretext.
leaders
Yeah.
in Somalia.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was surprised, and I could not understand this type of hypocrisy. You see, I could not understand this kind of greed. So, but I immediately understood where he was coming from. Because when you read Dr. Nkrumah's book called Neocolonialism, The Last Stage of Imperialism, he tells you exactly how the Western world is exploiting. Actually, he pointed out this book when it was published in 1965, because it was pointing out how the United States was coming to colonize Africa as Europe was going out. The book was articulating exactly pointing out what the United States is coming to do, how it is coming. The United States protested against this book when Nkrumah, published it in 1965. They even protested and they said Nkrumah has to go. That book actually sparked Nkrumah's overthrow from the presidency in Ghana. So I would encourage people to read that book called The Neocolonialism, The Last Stage of Imperialism. It is available on Google if you search for it. You can start with a chapter called The Mechanism of Neocolonialism, The Mechanisms of Neocolonialism. That chapter, it gives you an understanding of what Blinken is about. In this book, Nkrumah says that neocolonialism is intertwined, is a web of organizations, is a web, is a combination of military, economic institutions, intelligence institutions, media institutions, and the
Yeah.
corporations. All these, they are tied together. They work as an octopus. Okay, so whether you are talking of Hollywood, whether you are talking of their religion, religious activities, things like the Jehovah Witness, whether you are talking of the CIA, whether you are talking of CNN and BBC, all these are intertwined and they work together. That is why you see that these days when they are attacking Putin, you can see that they are saying the same thing. When you go to BBC, they are saying the same thing. When you go to CNN, they are saying the same thing. When you go to Sky News of Australia, they are saying the same thing. When you go France 24 of France, they are saying the same thing. When you go to BBC of Britain, same thing. When you go to DW of Germany, they are saying the same thing. So these are predators. I think these are mentally crippled people who think that they can dominate the world forever and ever and then exploit the rest of the humans forever, that we will never grow smart. So this is the understanding. So when I look at Blinken, Senator Blinken, Secretary of State, Secretary of State Blinken, I laugh at his moves, because the world has already figured them out. They have been playing from the same book,
In
you know.
fact, they know what is next coming.
Yes, yes, the Africans now, we cannot be fooled again like this.
Yeah.
So how can you take these moves within 60 days? I think it is just even foolish. It's just unwise of him. We know that they canceled the contracts of an American company on 20th, and then you are coming 60 days on 26th, February. You are telling us that you are putting a ban on the president, and a ban on their visas, the Somalia leadership, which has cancelled the American, corporations, contracts, because they are coming here to steal our resources. They are, they signed unfavorable public sharing agreements, PSS, to exploit our resources. Now you are saying that you put sanctions on us because we are stopping you from
Yeah.
stealing our resources. We are
Yeah.
stopping you from corrupting, from bringing your corruption. We are stopping you from bringing your corruption from the United States and bringing it to Africa. And in turn, you clean yourself with your organization, neo-colonial organizations, the Transparency or International, and say, we are not corrupt. The Africans are the ones who are corrupt. Now we are stopping you from this corruption. Now you are turning around to
And
tell us
yeah,
that you put sanctions on us. So this is the hypocrisy. And
yeah, but the level of
organizations like,
hypocrisy, the
yes,
bullying.
all organizations that are neo-colonial in nature, IMF, World Bank, UN, European Union, all their organizations, Transparency International, they should be condemned. These organizations, they don't represent the true picture of what the world is about. They don't represent human rights. Watch all these organizations. They are not about human rights. They are not about America and Europe. They are not about democracy. They are not about human rights. When we look at their record, when we go back and examine their record in Vietnam, the murder of people there, when we go in Japan, Hiroshima, and how they dropped bombs there and killed innocent people. When we go to Iraq, that in the first Gulf War, they put sanctions in Iraq, and more than 500,000 babies died because they were denied medicine. When we go and examine the human rights violation of Europe and
Yeah.
the United States, I think we need to condemn these people and tell them that they don't have any right to talk about democracy. They don't have any right to talk about human rights. They don't have any right. They don't have any moral standing, any moral pedestal on which they can stand to talk
Exactly.
about anything, to say that they are champions of human rights or democracy or anything. They don't represent any of these things. So this is what I'm seeing, and this is what I think, as we Africans, we have to take a stand. We have to take a stand because we are more educated now, we are more enlightened, we have a new consciousness, and then we have to continue to protect our interests as Africans.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's really a good message and timely message, and it should be said again and again to remind people. Not we cannot allow at this time when people are awake and when people are so conscious. That's all the result of what's happening in West Africa. Actually, now to go to the next question, this Ukraine Russia war, the number of things that it has unfolded in front of our eyes, really, that you could not believe that you would, that we cannot imagine that it will be said, on the television window while sitting in your living room or in your radio. It's just
Yes,
crazy.
it's
The
unimaginable.
level of racism in its many ways, like also religious racism. There is also uh, the racism by media, the things that
Yes,
they talk,
yes, yes,
and then the racism by sport, the so-called international whatever FIFA banning,
yes,
the Russian footballers and anyone, just outcasting them, and the also the international, what is its name, the judo. I'm not saying that, I mean, let it be clear that we are not saying Russia should attack and Ukraine should be attacked. All we are saying is there is a whole lot of background where Russia is
Yes.
coming from, and
Yes.
that cause definitely relates what African countries are facing right now. And what really kills me is in this racism. Where were they that when the people where was FIFA actually, where a number of people are killed in Libya, in Yemen, in Somalia, in Palestine, I mean, everywhere, in Iraq, Syria, where were they? Did such a thing happen? Did anyone come out? Did FIFA say stop the attack at the US? I mean, did it ban American sportsmen and women? That's the thing, and it's just crazy. And another thing that it unfolded is, before they were it happens in a sneaky way. Now this comes, just like you said, in a 6 days difference. How that Senator Blinken and said, to say, oh, Somalia, there's no democracy, this and that. But while we know that what happened a week before is that because they were denied their oil deal. So what
Yes.
happened also, I can give another two examples. Sudan is in the no list, no, in the abstain list, as you know. Now immediately as they saw that Sudan voted, remained abstain, then they say this is the same government that they have been supporting. They have the same government that they facilitated the coup and everything. So they tried to start to call him junta, because Sudan right now has has signed a deal to give their base for Russia, and then other like investment deals with Russia. So
Yes.
they came out immediately and they start to call the
Call
leader
it a
junta,
junta.
and all that things. And also on Zimbabwe, yesterday, as of yesterday, Zimbabwe is in the list of abstain, right? If I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
they added more sanctions on Zimbabwe.
So now, after a long fought to ease that sanction, and it was just, step by step, the things were starting to be a better and smooth in getting, in lifting the sanctions. Now they say no, the sanction have to be postponed.
They'll
I mean,
add
it has to be prolonged because they abstained. These
you
two
know,
things, it came out right after their abstain, Zimbabwe and Sudan. So the bullying, this diabolical behavior, because you don't even say, you didn't even have the gut to say no. Okay, you're
you
just
know, Let what I
abstain.
see is that the arrogancy is naked right now, and the white supremacy is very naked, and this arrogancy, I think, has to be called out in broad daylight. Like we have said, the United States is not a special country. So the attitude of Europeans, whatever Western people and Western ruling class, they are not even supported by all their populations. If you look at the polls, uh, in the United States, the people actually who support the media, who trust the media, is around 36%. 36 after a poll was taken in 2011. It came
Yeah.
back that only 36% trust what the United States media say. The majority of the people, they don't trust what the United States media says. So we have this ruling class that is riding on a high horse, and it has destroyed the American economy. Like figures came out last month. The United States debt has hit $30 trillion. So they have been borrowing recklessly. They have been misusing the money of the people. Income inequality has increased, and instead of being accountable to their people, they go around the world, trying to preach things which they can't do at home. So the people are putting pressure on them at home. Do the things here, okay? You don't have the money to be going around to continue this arrogance that you are spreading around the world. And the rest of the world doesn't need you, because where the world has reached now, it doesn't need the Western world. It doesn't need the West, they doesn't need Europe or the United States. A country, a continent like Africa, we have 70% of our population below the age of 30. How can you, Europe or the United States, with an aging population, come and say you are coming to protect Africa? Militarily, Europe is very weak. Is depending on the United States for security. So how can it come and say France, a small country like France with 66 million people, come and say it is coming to protect Africa with 1.4 billion people, and then 70% of that is a young population below the age of 30? I think it just goes to show you the extent of the arrogancy of these people and the white supremacy to think that they know it all. And
Yeah.
what we are saying now is that you don't know it all, and we really don't need these countries to come here. If you want to come here and do business, come and negotiate on the table, because the era, I will refer to one political scientist is called Eric Lee from China. He's saying that he has been saying for the last 10 years that we are entering the era of warring states. We are in that period where no country is going to be superior. The world is not going to be ruled by one country, but rather countries and cultures are going to assert their dominance. Cultures are going to assert themselves. Okay, so that means politically, economically, culturally, countries are going to assert themselves. Cultures are going to come out. So the culture, the African culture, is going to come out in our politics. It's going to come out in our economics. It's going to be manifested in this. So we are not going to take the Western system of arrogance and telling us that the neoliberalism is the only way to govern yourself. No, we will mix what is good from their system, and what is not good, we will throw it out. What has retarded our economies, we will extract it and throw it to them. And what is good, we will take it. What is not good, we will throw it back to them. So what we are saying is that we are more educated. We understand how you built your nations. We understand how you built your civilizations. You exploited our resources. You exploited our people, to build the United States, to build France. A country like France was built with labor. France and Liverpool and almost all of Europe built with labor from Africa. So how do you turn around and you come and tell us about human rights when you used our labor for free and you have not paid the reparations? You still have a debt. You have not paid. You have not paid the reparations to the African people in the United States. You have not paid the reparations to the African people in Haiti. You have been exploiting them. You have not paid the reparations to the African resources you have exploited. You have not quantified the resources you have been exploiting during colonialism. And you're coming to tell us about human rights and development. So I think that it is high time that we call out to this arrogancy. It is high time that we stand up to Europe and challenge it, and challenge these neoliberal rulers that are coming and running around the world, and they don't know what they are talking about, because they think that we are the older generation, which is going to be pushed around. And we are saying that we are the young generation. We are a new generation that is not going to be pushed around.
But the,
We know
the
what
thing
we
is,
want to
let me come in, because now the organization, the supposedly Pan-African organization, which is the African Union, is not saying on these things. Okay, so like, okay, they put a statement about the racism and the treatment of Africans about by the border of Poland or Ukraine. But about the bullying, the change of, America not respecting the freedom of these states to say what they want. I mean, they are even abstain. So the bullying against the
do.
countries, and threatening them with more sanctions and others, and how do you say, like, outcasting them.
Yeah, you know what I see is to the
How
extent.
can, what should we do as an Africa if this is not come? Should we pressure the African Union? Should it come from the civil society? How can we encounter this?
I think we as African civil society, we have to come out with accurate research, actually, to show how important it is for us to band together. Zimbabwe has been able to stand against these sanctions for almost 20 years, because the other African countries around it have stood with Zimbabwe. Countries like South Africa, when Tony Blair was suggesting to Thabo Mbeki that they should attack Zimbabwe through South Africa and overthrow President Mugabe, Thabo Mbeki, who was the president in South Africa at that time, resisted and refused. And he said this it cannot work like that. And simply because President Mugabe took back the land that belongs to the African people. So in his white supremacy, Tony Blair, who has been, brought to, is really funny, who has been brought now to be an advisor to Tanzania. And now Tanzania is sinking, the economy is sinking. Tony Blair is the advisor. So I don't know
That's
what
cute.
President Samia Suluhu is looking at. I don't know what she's looking for and what she was targeting to bring Tony Blair, someone who destroyed Iraq and destroyed Afghanistan, as an advisor. So Tony Blair was bringing his advice to Thabo Mbeki that they should attack Zimbabwe. And President Thabo Mbeki refused and rejected it. So we have to emphasize, we have to come up with accurate analysis. First of all, as Pan-Africanists, we have to have accurate analysis of the situation. And then we write this analysis and give it to the African Union, the regional bodies, and the heads of the state. And we tell them, we know what you guys are doing. And this is where we want the continent to go. You are living in an era that is old. This is an old era. Okay, the world has moved in a different direction. If you people want to be subordinate, then step down. You want to be subordinate to the United States, or you want to be subordinate to the white people. Akufo-Addo, step down and go and live in Britain and be a subordinate. Okay, if you are Ouattara, step down from Ivory Coast. Go to France and be a subordinate. And if you want to be a subordinate to Macron, go and be his secretary. But the African continent has entered a new era, and you have to step up to this level of the new era which we are talking about, that the African continent has gone in. The young generation has entered a new era. If you are Buhari of Nigeria and you think that you want to be a subordinate to the English, step down and go to Britain and live in Britain, or go and live in the United States and get a job there and let them be your bosses if this is what you want. But we are saying that we have a new generation of leaders that has come up, and they have to stop living in an era that is old. The era of domination of colonialism and neo-colonialism is over. These countries have declined, and they are not coming back. Okay, these countries are not coming back. Europe is not coming back. The United States is not coming back. So we should not take care of the interests of the United States. We were not created to take care of the interests of the United States and the Europeans. We are here to take care of the interests of the African people.
Yeah.
So we, as the African civil society, I think we have to put our foot down and make analysis, correct analysis, and give it to these leaders point blank, without being ashamed of anything. That if you want to be a subordinate to these people, who we think that you are even equal in intelligence with them, and you want to be their subordinate, or even some of them, you are more smart than them, you are more intelligent than them, but you still want to be subordinate to them, step down as an African leader. And if this is how you are going to go to the United Nations and vote and ashame the African people, like you don't know what is going on in the world, you don't know the era in which we are living, step down and go and live in Britain if you want to please the British people. Buhari, step down if Akufo-Addo, you want to please the Americans. Step down and go to the United States and live there and be a subordinate. So I think this is the position as Pan-Africans we have to take, an African civil society, and we have to stop being. We have to stop to be. We have to stop being sorry about it. Okay, we don't have to give an excuse about this, because this is the reality of the world. Countries like China, they are taking a stand. Cuba has taken a stand for the last 60 years. Okay, it's a small country with 20 million people. It has taken a stand against the United States and the European Union. Sanctions have been put. It has taken a stand. Zimbabwe has taken a stand for the last 20 years. Okay, how can Nigeria not take a stand? Ethiopia has taken a stand. How can how can Ghana not take a stand? And Akufo-Addo wants to be a subordinate, an old man, 77 years. You want to be a subordinate to Macron, a 46-year man. The presidents have to be ashamed. they have to be ashamed. So you are with the same intelligence with these people. They are not more intelligent than you. So you have to take a stand as African leaders. You have to take a stand, at least if not for yourself, for the African people, for the dignity of the African people. So this is what I'm seeing, and this is what I think that we as Pan-Africanists, we should do, with all our energy, without shame, without any fear or favor
Yeah.
of these white people, because I believe that they are not smarter than us. We can compete them in anything. In anything, we can compete with them on anything, whether it's politics, economics, engineering, anything. There's nothing that Europeans or Americans are better than us in any way.
Thank you very much. Indeed, there are lots of questions that I can raise. I mean, just things that are happening as a result of this war that we can discuss. For example, Samia is her name, the president of Tanzania. Now that looking for, just to hide away that news of, okay, when IMF said, I'm very worried that Tanzania is, burying herself in debt, and they're worried if they can pay back. But then again, the president come out a couple of days ago and saying that in fact the war has created an opportunity for Tanzania, that there is I don't know from which countries that they are looking for, from US or something, to take gas from Tanzania. So in how long I mean, who you are fooling, who you, I mean, do you, what are you thinking of your people? There's, we
It
are
is
at least
ironic.
in the
It is
area of
ironic.
digital media. People know that this, we don't even know it's going to happen. And if it happens, also again, that investment they come with, I mean, who it's going to benefit? I mean, there are
So
questions
you
to
see
raise.
what they are. This situation,
No, it's
John
not
Perkins.
if it's a quick one, say it, but it's not my
Mm.
intention to really
Okay,
to
yeah,
dwell
yeah, yeah. I
on.
think I have to comment on it. This situation, John Perkins, who used to work with the IMF and these corporations, the neo-colonial corporations like BHL, the construction company which went into Iraq. So he points out how the IMF and World Bank, in a book called "The Confessions of an Economic Hitman." I don't know whether you have read it.
Economically, okay.
John Perkins, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. It shows you how the IMF comes in, lends the money. After it has lent the money, it has seen the resources which you have. Uh, and when they see the resources you have, they lend you money which you can't pay. And then they come at the back and say, give us the resources instead of the loans, and let us extract the resources. And they
And they
come
tell
with,
you
with
we
their
don't pay
corporate.
tax because we are not
Yes.
registered here. All these
Aha.
things.
Aha. So all those. So the country continues to lose money. So I cannot even myself fathom the naivety of President Suluhu
Yeah.
Samia of Tanzania, how she could leave the legacy that was built up by President Magufuli and go on to expose the economy to neo-colonial enterprises like this. It is very unfortunate. It is very unfortunate for the African people, all over the world, looking at the progress which Tanzania was making. Uh, People like Magufuli, they had made the Africans very proud. All over the continent, Africans were proud that at least some African president has come up to build things in an African way, to progress an African thinking. He built all infrastructure without borrowing money, 2,000 megawatt dam without borrowing money. He built high speed, he brought electric trains without borrowing money. He installed the Tanzania Airways, and they bought 7 Boeing planes, 7, without borrowing money, without borrowing any money. They built hospitals, they built a lot of infrastructure without borrowing money. So
Yeah.
I do not understand how people like President Suluhu Samia of Tanzania can come and start reversing all these beautiful policies. I don't know what her agenda is. I don't know who are the people behind her. I don't know who advised her to appoint Tony Blair as an advisor on economics. What
Yeah.
does Blair know about economics? So it is a shame. It is a very, very big shame and a very bad day and a shameful day for the African people. And I really feel sorry for ourselves and the people of Tanzania for these policies that President Suluhu has unleashed on the Tanzania economy. But I believe that we can stand if we stand together as Africans, if we hold hands. We can stand. If we put our hands together, we are rich, we have enough resources. What is missing is the courage of the leaders. The leaders are missing courage, and we have to push them to be courageous, to stand for the African values, to stand for the African people, because the African people have shown repeatedly that if you are a leader and you stand your ground, like what President Abiy did in Ethiopia, what President Mugabe did in Zimbabwe, the African people are there to stand behind you. The African people are always there. So there's nothing that, as a president, you should fear about these white people. These are not special people. These are not people that were created from by a different God. They were created by the same God as you. You have the same intelligence. So I would call on the African leaders that they should have courage. They should have courage to protect the interests of their people instead of selling them out, instead of going to build houses in Brussels, in Britain, and then sending their children and leaving our continent to sink, in poor health, poor education, while they are sending their children to America. I heard a few weeks ago that the Speaker of Parliament in Uganda was rushed with the Uganda Airlines, Boeing, Airbus, to the United States for treatment. Okay, so it is a shame. So this kind of behavior, President Museveni of Uganda, it is a shame when the people are dying in the country because of poor health, but a speaker can be rushed out, on a chartered, jet and paid with a lot of money, almost up to $500,000 just to save because one person. Why not? Why doesn't he use the
Build a
same
hospital. Yeah.
medical facilities in the country? Let him use the
Yeah.
same medical facilities in the country, which other people, so that we can see how you as a president and the speaker, they are patriotic to the country, how they care about the country. So I think this is the attitude we have to push our African leaders to adopt. We have to push them to be courageous. We have to push them to act in the interest of the African people.
Yeah, make accountable your leaders wherever you are.
Yes,
Ask why you are not doing this. I mean, I know that most of us will become hopeless, but I mean, there is something that we can get out of talking. Keep on talking. Keep the level of
yes.
consciousness in the same vibration frequency.
even
Really.
even even as citizens in various African states, we can band together and form Pan-African organizations. There's already Pan-African organizations around. But even as you have a right under the constitution to write a letter to the president and query him, you have a right to
Yeah.
to come up with a group of people, 10 people,
Yeah.
write a letter, send it to the parliament and question, why does a speaker have to go out when the rest of us are in the country
On,
for
on, on,
treatments?
on a tax money.
You see,
Yeah. Anyway, you
why
have to
does
take us.
President Suluhu have to reverse the policies that were instituted by President Magufuli? We have to raise these questions because they don't think that they are supposed to be accountable to us. And then we can write in the same spirit and tell them they should be strong. They
Yeah.
should be courageous and act in the interest of the people.
Yeah.
These people who are coercing them and exploiting our resources, they are not special people. The white people are not special. Europeans are not special people. Americans are not special people. Canadians, Australians, whoever, they are not special people that they should come here and dominate us. We are of the same makeup. We are of the same intelligence. If
Right.
anything, we are more than them, physically. When you look at our accomplishments in sports and music,
We
okay,
were before them. Everything's
yes.
taken out of
So
this.
there's
Yeah, out
nothing
of
to fear
Africa,
as for African leaders. There's really nothing to fear,
including
about these people.
the knowledge. Yeah, yeah. I think most of you have said in a way here, and there's a closing remarks. How to go forward. So I'm not gonna make you to repeat that, but just to say, yeah, keep on talking, keep on teaching, the people, the youth, uh, keep the knowledge alive, what kind of legacy we want to leave. It's important to teach the youth, to teach the children. That is the most important thing. And keep the fight. I mean, there are results. I mean, this vote, uh, is really a big revelation. I will say a quick thing. While Ethiopia was not in the room of attendance in that vote, but at the same time, what happened is when we celebrate Adwa, it tells you what people doing. People were there with the Russian flag, I
Mm.
don't know what this instigate, but it tells you what's the thinking of the people, because
Yes,
we have
yes.
observed in the past 15 months during this war in the northern part, which is still going on.
Malek,
It was
Malek, people are
Russia.
not stupid. You know, people are not
Yeah, it was
stupid.
Russia and China who said in their veto power
Yes.
resisted the many sanctions that we could have
No,
faced by now, and we could,
Malek,
so they know what has been done.
the people are not stupid. You know, you
No,
can have BBC, you can have 1,000 BBCs or 1,000 CNN and Sky News and France 24, but the people are not stupid. We are living in an era of information. The information is in our hand. Now, they are banning RT news from Russia, but we can
yeah,
still watch it on YouTube. We
yeah,
can watch it everywhere. We can find it on Telegram. We can find it on the internet. So it's a waste of time. So this is the same tactics which they were using after colonialism. They wanted to hang on and stay powerful, but there's no way. There's no way they could stay powerful. Okay, because the power has been taken from you. So it is the same way now that this technology has democratized the information. We have access to this information. So for you to ban RT news of Russia to say it should not give us, we should not choose for ourselves. Okay,
yeah,
I pity companies like DSTV, which is in Africa. DSTV, which originated in South Africa, but actually is owned by Europeans from the UK. It also banned RT news and stopped broadcasting it in Africa. And this is unfortunate. And
yeah.
I think that smart people, they should also boycott all over the African continent. They should boycott DSTV. They should stop paying their subscriptions. This is what
They
I say,
should
because this
take
is
out
an
their
infringement.
subscription. Exactly. Yeah,
Yes, this is an infringement on the right to information of the people. The people have a right to digest the news and then choose out what they want to believe. So you don't choose for them. You don't come with your neocolonialism and tell us that don't watch RT news. No, we have the right to watch anything we want. We have the right to watch BBC, CNN, RT news. We watch CCTV from China. We watch CGTN, and then we ourselves will choose out. Okay, we will rationalize and choose out. We will rationally choose out what we think is the right. We will make
yeah,
judgment by ourselves. But don't come with your neo-colonial, United States and Europe and tell us that they should ban RT. And even if you ban now, it is too late. The United States is in decline. It is too late. Europe is in decline. It is too late. The information has been democratized, so the people they know. It's a waste
yeah,
of time to ban RT news. It's a waste of time. So we will know where to find the news. If we want balanced news, we want to understand what Russia has to say, we will go and find RT. If the people in the United States want to find what Russia has to say, instead of the propaganda that is being pushed, when you look at the media in the Western world now, they are saying the same thing, all of them, and demonizing Russia and demonizing President Putin. Africans, we are not stupid. They think we are stupid. Okay, so the people in the United States, if they want to understand what Russia, Telegram is there. Just Google it. Telegram for Russia, it will come, and then you
is
go and
it
get the
banned
news.
from
You go
YouTube
to
as well?
YouTube. Yes,
Yeah,
YouTube is there. It is there.
yeah,
You can still go. They have their website. RT has its website. You can still go there and watch the news. So is
yeah,
foolishness when we have gone from the era of cable news and we have approached the era of internet, whereby the news now is broadcast on the internet. For you to ban a cable news, because the people now are no more watching even their news on cable. They are watching it on the internet online. So I pity the imperialistic camp and their decline. Actually, I really pity them. And the only thing I can say when it comes to this DSTV, which bans RT in Africa, the African people Also, they should boycott and stop paying subscription to DSTV so that it can also feel the pain if it wants to bring its neo-colonialism and practice it in Africa.
That by itself is an action. Those are the things. One of the things that how Africans,
Can fight back.
express. Yeah, exactly. It's one weapon in a way to counterattack what is being done against you. Well, that brings us to the end, but there are, other topics that are coming, out of this conflict or war between Ukraine and Russia. For example, we will have next, I think, possibly on Wednesday, using sanctions as a weapon. So we will have guests who specialize on that, and also, our Eritrean brothers and sisters to share with us, related to the vote. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot to learn from them. And Kwame is our usual friend. He come and he share when anything happens in Africa. He's a Pan-Africanist. We really, really benefit from his knowledge and, the things that he share with us. We are so grateful, Kwame. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. Thank you very
And
much for having me.
no, it's a pleasure. And those of you, for our viewers who are not subscribed, please go and subscribe. Your host is here is a bit shy. She but yeah, you need. I mean, this is a very educative topic. I mean, I as I sit here in front of the screen, I mean, I'm telling you, I enjoy it. I learn a lot. It's like a research for me it's a feeling that I get when I used to interview my participants in my research, because you really learn a lot from them. So please, yeah, share. And so those who you are, if you are a Pan-African, you really have to share this and subscribe for more videos. And yeah, thank you very much. And that was it for this evening. Have a good evening, Kwame.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye bye.
Bye.